Hi, welcome to Holistic Emails, Email and More, a Q&A with. Every 2 weeks, we showcase a different topic and have different expert panelists join us. It's not rehearsed, and you, the live audience, get to ask us your burning questions about the topic at hand. I'm Adiola Sol, Senior Consultant at Holistic Email, and I'm your host and moderator for Email and More. With me today, I have Kath Pei, CEO of Holistic Email Marketing. There she is waving. I have Mark Ash, CEO of Pure 360. And Ryan Cullen, CEO of Origin Email. We've got CEOs in the room, which is great. So our topic today is email lifecycle marketing. And whilst you're typing your questions into the Q&A area, and please feel free to ask as many questions as you like, we'll try our best to get through them. I'm going to kick off and ask the panelists to quickly introduce themselves in a little bit more detail, and then we'll get into the questions. So who wants to start?
Oh, Mark, why don't you go first?
Oh, thanks, Ryan. I'll do that. So I'm Mark Ash. I lead the team here at Pure 360. We've been in the email space for 20 years. I've been in the email space for 20 years, going back to 99. Very early stages. I produced the first email benchmark reports. And blimey, yeah, for DoubleClick, the first email marketing trends in this space 20 years ago.
Wow.
Things have
Back when there weren't
changed.
trends.
Exactly. Well, yeah, exactly. You probably say they wouldn't really trends, but experimentation.
Yeah.
So yeah, for us, our focus as a business to help marketers be the best they can be, and you know, that's why I'm here.
Amazing. Ryan?
Ryan Phelan, co-founder of Origin Email. We're an agency out of the US that helps marketers from start to finish, from strategy to execution. I've been in the industry since '98 was my first internet job, sending email off of a desktop computer with a program on my computer, and we would just go crazy. So those were the good old days, right?
You got AOL days.
Yeah, you didn't need an ESP. All you needed was a desktop and a mouse. But seen a great progression since then, right? I've worked for numerous ESPs in the space. I've been a CMO of a company, and currently run a fractional CMO business also out of Origin that helps companies with their marketing. So excited to be here.
We're happy to have you. And Kath?
Yeah, well, if we're going to be giving our original credentials, then
Yes.
Yeah, I think I started out, I think it was 97, 98, and I created EasyMail, which was an ESP. So, and yeah, it was so
I remember those.
Yeah, it was so easy to sell. It's like, oh, you mean we can track, we can see opens, we can see clicks. That's all I had to say. And the company said, I'm signing. Yeah, so, and over through that, so EasyMail, and then I've been consulting now for over 10 years, and CEO for the Email Marketing, and Adiola and I deliver some amazing projects with some fantastic clients, and absolutely love what I do.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for your introductions. So now we're just going to get straight into our discussions. And guys, don't forget, those of you that are watching live at the moment, please feel free to type your questions in so that the guys can get them ready and locked and loaded and answered for you. But I'm going to kick things off with this first question. Do you need a tech team to aid implementing personalization? Who wants to start? Who wants to take this one?
I'll jump into this one. I think it depends on what you mean by personalization.
Yeah.
I think if you are talking about name personalization or dynamic variables based on what's in the data stream, no, you don't need a tech team. Is it dynamic content in order to personalize the message based upon predisposition or interest or category? Most ESPs, no, you don't need a tech team. If you want to do model data, that is kind of the pinnacle of looking at full-blown data sciences, you may need a tech team, because I think that it is, from prior experience, the complexity there increases tenfold just because of the amount of data and the amount of work that you have to do to get the right elements in the right order. But I think that a lot of people have this idea that complexity means bringing in extra team members. And I don't necessarily think that's true. I think, like I said, most ESPs, if not all, allow within the tool to do it fairly easy. You just have to play with it and learn it and try it.
Mm.
Mark, what do you think? Or no, Kath, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, as far as the third-party one-to-one personalization apps and tools and systems go, most of them have got, a nice plug-in to a Pure 360 or so on as well. And so you might need your tech team at the front, in actually implementing it. But from there on, once it's all been set up and you've gone and worked out what the algorithms are going to be, and that's going to be according to your strategy, not so much. But I also want to have a little mention here too, because personalization is really, really crucial to lifecycle marketing, because lifecycle marketing is a form of personalization. Because when we're sending our campaigns, they're based on the lifecycle. So whether this is their first purchase, or that you haven't seen them in a while, or they're part of a loyalty program and everything, so that you're contacting them that way. So that is an innate form of personalization. And of course, lifecycle marketing, generally speaking, again, if you're using a system, a good tool like Pure 360 or so, you don't need to get your tech team in. The systems are set up to do that.
I think that's quite interesting, because I think some people might not actually identify a life cycle program as a form of personalization, but more just as a content strategy. So it's a nice way to look at it and to get people thinking about, actually, this is a form of personalization. So what can we do to optimize that journey moving forward?
Yeah, I think just reiterating the point you just made there, Adiel, is a big kind of stopping block being able to do any kind of personalization or lifecycle marketing is this fear of complexity, as you say. A lot of ESPs manage that complexity on your behalf, but there's an essence. I think there's something in the saying, learning to run before you can walk. There's so many low-hanging fruits with lifecycle marketing, within personalization, that brands can make use of before they even go down the road of thinking about more complex setups. For us, a big challenge is some customers, they want to go to the next step. The ambition is most definitely there, and some that their immediate thinking is, well, I need a huge CRM, and I have to think about investing in integrations and do this and get an analyst in. I'm going to have to get a tech team to do this. No. And it's like,
they need the whole Justice League.
Let's just think about the strategy. And for me, if you get the strategy right in the first place and just think about mapping out your life cycle, initially, there are so many things you can do, and that can be managed through your ESP, and using your partners and using your ESP to get set up, that for me, kind of the majority of the use cases for improving the customer experience are dealt with there and then. And often spend a lot of time with brands thinking and discussing with them, you don't have to make that huge CapEx investment for all of this data, all this integration. You've got most of the data there. It's about sitting down and working out the strategy first, coming up with some amazing ideas and innovative treatments. That's what's going to drive the influence. That's what's going to drive marketing performance. And do you know what I mean? There's so much to be had there. And I think that you start from that. That could be really exciting without it being daunting that you need all of this tech team. You do need a little bit of support, and you should get that from your ESP, or you may need a little bit of internal support to do small things. But in my instance, agreeing with you, Ryan, that the vast majority of use cases, I don't think they need any kind of tech support at all.
And I absolutely love what you're saying there, because for me, the life cycle marketing, it addresses so many of the low-hanging fruits. But I tend to find, as a consultant, I tend to go in and I will find out that there's two ways that they're doing it, that they're literally waiting for the Justice League to happen, right?
Yeah.
And that's when everything, and just, they're hoping their whole world will just transform, just, because they've gone and put everything in place. Or they're doing it the opposite way, and they haven't put a strategy together. They've just read in an article, oh, you should have a
Yes.
Okay, great, so I'll do that. Oh, you should have a win-back program. Okay, I'll do that. So they're creating them ad hocly, and they're not actually joined up at all. Whereas in reality, as you were saying, Mark, you need that strategy. And once you've got that strategy, that's when you can go and add them on one by one, optimizing, learning, implement all those learnings into the next one, and so on and so on. So you don't need the whole Justice League together. But in the end, after it's all done, it will transform your program. Yeah.
There is always there's an unfortunate bandwagon within the industry, right? You've got to have this, got to have that, got to have this, regardless of whether it's contextually relevant to your business anyway. And that often comes up in conversations. Well, if I buy this piece of tech, or if I do this, and then that's going to solve all my problems. And sometimes you've got to step back and say, why do you need that? Why do you think? And when you start to question those things, as you say, things are planned the wrong way around. When you think, then is that actually going to add value to the overall experience, or is that by 3 or 4 customers, and I've spent all of that money? The start has to be the strategy, the mapping out the customer experience, so that you can see where do the gaps exist, where am I not influential, where can I make this experience so much more enjoyable for the customer, and therefore they're going to see through that purchase decision with me and not somebody else.
Yeah.
CustomerCentric approach.
Yeah. It's because I think a lot of marketers, a lot of everybody, right, is looking for the easy button where it may not exist, right? I've been a big proponent of ESPs doing a lot of things to make the easy button exist. But I think when a lot of marketers, and I've seen from the Fortune 50 all the way down to the local retailer, come at a problem, and this is reiterating what everybody said, is you come to a problem and marketers are very good at the tactical. We have to solve for this. Oh, well, then we're going to go do this, and Phil is going to do this, and Mary is going to do this, and we'll be good. But they don't take that step backward to have the strategy, to tell them the why of they're doing it, and then following through to say, are we trying to phone this in? Or are we actually putting together the requisite effort to make it right? That's what we see on the B2B side, right? Why does B2B spam increasing year over year, month over month? Is because people still believe you can go buy a list, you can chuck it into Outlook, and you can send out 50,000 emails, and God, you're going to make just a ton of money. And it's just not true, because you don't want to work at it.
Yeah, I totally agree about I call it a silver bullet, right? We're all very familiar with that, and that's and this isn't to sort of put the email marketers on the spot. It's because they're generally so under budgeted, under resourced, over busy, and everything like that. They're looking for those, But also what Mark was saying about leading with technology. Now, I'm one of the biggest fans, right? I used to have a technology company. And I'm a huge fan of technology, but if you think about it, so there's the latest report from Gartner about what budgets are being spent on. Technology, marketing technology is the biggest budget being spent, right? Which is great for you, right? Great. But the problem is that, as with anything, wherever your budget's going to be being spent, that's where you're going to be focusing. And so that's where it's really tempting for everyone to be just focusing on, okay, technology is going to make our life easier. Whereas, we do need to bring that marketing principles back, because technology by itself isn't going to be able to resolve everything. And that's why, as you were saying, Adiola, the customer-centric, and that's what lifecycle marketing is.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. It's just all about the customer. It's looking at them. And quality to bring it, together.
Yeah. Well, that actually leads quite nicely onto our first question. And everyone else who's watching, please don't hesitate to throw your question in there. This is actually a really nice one. So we've got Deb from Kenya. Hi, all the way from Kenya. That is actually really cool. She's happy to be here. And the question is, email marketing is quite different here geographically and socio-economically because of the fact that information through word of mouth is dependable than most digital marketing ads like email marketing. However, even with this challenge, knowing the societal dynamics of the people, what best approach can email marketing help in pulling consumers' interest here? That's a very meaty question. Who wants to target this one? I will say, in terms of word of mouth and using emails as a very different vehicle to how we do, over in the West, knowing how people act in the Middle East. So when I worked in Dubai for a little while, emails weren't necessarily a driver in the sense that how we use it here. It was very much based on service, delivering a service to the customer, and more about promotion so that they could drive the customer back to the website. So that could be a nice little angle or a direction for you to explore. So leading more with a service added value rather than just a straight sales. But it'd be interesting to hear what the CEOs, I love that there's so many CEOs.
I'm a big proponent of pretty much what you just described there. I call it helpful marketing, right? And what I've defined as being helpful marketing is basically every single email that you send that's being sent to someone who's signed up to you is and can be a helpful email. It just depends on you and the strategy behind it, right? So think about it. I'm assuming this is a permission-based list, so they've come and they've bought something from you and you've got permission, or they've signed up, they want to hear from you, signed up to your newsletter. Therefore, what you've gone and done as a brand, you've made them a promise. And you've said to them, okay, great, if we give you this, we want your permission. Is that okay? And you say, yeah, that's great. So a transaction's actually had happened. If a transaction's happened, then that means every single email, therefore, is actually going to be delivering upon that promise, and therefore will be a transactional email. Now, obviously not under the guises of, in the UK here, Pecker and canned spam and everything. But in our minds as marketers, we need to be making sure we're delivering upon that promise. And therefore, we've now got the whole idea of helpful marketing. So I think that goes in hand with the whole word of mouth, because that's very much a trust proponent, and so it's just supporting like that. So I know it's very top level, but again, it's just that little mindset rather than marketing.
I think that just nails it completely, Kath. I couldn't agree more. I think that if you want to use a term that underpins the goal of email marketing, it's that. I call it utilitarianism. Yeah.
Ooh.
Utilitarianism is a concept of helpfulness, of being useful in a particular purpose, or Epicureanism. It's so important. If marketers are just focused on that principle, they wouldn't be trying to just send out the next newsletter just because there's a quick hit to sales, but actually trying to do something useful to a consumer to help them in their task of moving from point A to B, whatever that is. Yes. And the context of that email is that much more relevant, and the scope of email is much more wider than just the Friday newsletter. And I think in this context, it's about what is the role of email? How is email going to be useful alongside other channels in the performance of that objective for that consumer, as you rightly say. So you nailed it with that description. And for me, if we test every email in terms of its helpfulness, its utilitarian value to a particular journey or task that a consumer is performing, then we will know we're being influential and we are adding value to that consumer's journey, and they will naturally spend more, naturally engage with the brand in compared to everyone else. The sales is the output of good customer experience.
That's it. Yes. And the way I explain it is it's two sides of the same coin, right? You, the brand, have your objectives. Your customer has got their objectives. if we stop, because the way we've always done it is push, push, push. It's a push, you know, that's what email marketing is. We push our messages. So we tend to have that mindset. We say, we need to make more sales. We need to sell this. We need to do this, right? Totally understand that. But if we actually were to take the different approach and say, wait on, how can we help our customer achieve their objectives by thoughtful marketing? Then guess what? We are naturally going to be achieving ours. And it's a much easier route to sale. It's a much more palatable one for the customer as well. Yeah.
Can I add some spice onto this, and maybe Ryan, you can take it on? Am I allowed?
Sure.
Absolutely.
So, okay, so I like the utilitarian approach to, you know, service-based emails. I think it's great. But what if Deb's boss is just not sold on service? How you know, how can they have a nice blend of the two to appease the big guy, the big honcho, as well as the CRM objectives? Who wants to take on the extra spice?
I'll take that one. So
Okay.
I think what Deb is asking is, can I redefine the medium? I think the typical definition by most marketers is that email is promotional, that it is salesy. And I think what both of you what everybody's saying is, yes, Deb, it's okay to redefine email to say that it can be something else other than what everybody uses it for. Because of the geography, I think the most important thing that she said in her question is that word of mouth is more reputable. And why is that? Is because you have that one-on-one. You can see facial expression. You can see the micro movements. You can see all of those things that either dispel or enhance trust. And so if you take that into an impersonal medium, then how do you do that? Well, in Kenya, what you're going to have to do or try or attempt is to say, people trust it when you say it to their face. So we have to be more authentic. We have to be more in touch with our brand equity, more in touch with our brand, more helpful. Yes, we can still sell, but our primary message is redefining email to gap that lack of in-person experience. And so I think for any region, you have to look at the socioeconomic advantages and disadvantages and make sure that you're matching the medium to the society instead of trying to get society to fit inside the box of the medium.
Nice.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, I like that. You answered that fantastically. And Debs, I hope that answered your question. And everyone else that's watching, please don't be afraid. You know, we're not scary monsters. Please, any question at all.
I've never been stumped by a question. I want somebody to actually stump me with a question.
Stump him with a question. Like, this is a challenge. This is our Tuesday challenge. Get that fire burning question. Let's see if we can stump Ryan. Okay, but in the meantime, I have a question for you guys. And it's quite a nice, simple one, but one that I think is very relevant. Where should you start with implementing a lifecycle program? So there are so many stages in a customer journey, but where is the best place to start? And I guess it would be great to look at it from a small team resource versus a whole shebang. We have everything in place so we can do anything everywhere. Let's split it up for the audience.
Yeah.
The first step is research. You cannot put in a lifecycle program if you don't know who in the hell you're talking to. And I've worked with companies and encouraged them let's take the example that you had of a small team. Talk to the CEO, talk to the founders, do some research, look at the data, talk to customer service, talk to the sales group, talk to every group and do your research and try to understand the customer. Marketing's goal is to take everybody's vision through the company and consolidate it into one brand voice and brand equity. And you can only do it if you understand how sales sees their customer, how operations see their customer, how customer support or whatever, or fulfillment. You've got to understand all those different archetypes in order to build a persona of who the customer is. And so Lifecycle starts with research and asking the questions and trying to find the challenges that exist so that your solution can solve for them.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so, and going along with that, I also think that you can do a lot of pre-study via testing as well.
Yeah.
So email is, in my opinion, the best channel to be testing, because it is that push channel. You don't have to pay lots of money to be driving audiences to. It's fairly immediate. It's incredibly cost effective. And because if you think about it, your target market is your audience, right? It's made up of your audience, or your target market, is different parts of your audience. So if you start to think about it, you go, okay, so let's go and find out about those people who haven't yet purchased. What is it about them? What kind of offer will work? What kind of insights can we find about them? So once we start to get those insights, because we're doing some testing on that particular segment, or maybe we want to be testing, maybe we've got 80% of our database, as is a lot of retailers, have only ever made one purchase. Well, the answer, of course, is to go and put in a second purchase program. Easy. But should we just go and do that, or should we do some testing on this particular segment to find out what works best for them, then take those learnings and then put that together in that second purchase program, right? So I think that's, following on, with what Ryan was saying, it's a really, really good place to start with doing some research.
I think that, coming back to that point you made earlier about redefining the medium or using the medium to meet the needs of customers, come back to that point about researching your audience. It's only if you understand your audience and what does their journey look like with you? How are they completing a task from point A to B? And sometimes I think the first instinct is just to understand this from a purely technical perspective. So how do they get to my website? How do they find out about me? How do they find out about my goods and services? And then how do they buy from me? It can be quite a technical kind of navigation exercise, but it's also important to understand what are the emotional and cognitive steps that you're taking in that decision-making process. What are your needs? What are your desires? What are your fears? What are your aspirations that you're considering on that path to purchase? It's what I mean? It's much more involved. And when you do feel that, I remember doing this exercise for a bank actually in the UK, understanding the cognitive steps that you undertake when you're buying your first house, for instance. And it's quite a complex process. And when you think about that, then you understand, right, where are my gaps in my life cycle where I have no influence, or where can I actually add value? Remove that uncertainty, for instance. There's a lot of uncertainty in the checkout process. We know that with a lot of behavioral economics principles, you can apply that to remove doubt, anxiety, and so forth. But it happens all the way across the customer experience. Where can I delight? Where can I be influential? Sometimes you just have no presence. So some brands are really influential in acquiring a lot of customers or being seen in the marketplace. But when you get to a step where you're in a comparison mode, you're nowhere to be seen, for instance. And that step is required to move to the next step in the purchase decision process. And so, once you understand your customers and those different segments, how they go through that journey from start to finish, then I think it highlights all the gaps. And this is your low-hanging fruit where you can begin to map out, what, I think a message here would really help the consumer to get over that anxiety. Or we can delight them here. Or, maybe they're thinking about something before they make that final commitment. And as Kath says, a lot of that data evidences itself or shows itself by the breadcrumbs of how you navigate your website. There's analytics data there. And just by having a really good testing methodology with your email. Good taste profiles. Do people respond to this type of message or this tone of voice different than this? And I think in our COVID, in the time of COVID, never has it been more important to test how you speak with your audience and show authenticity. You've got to be interested in how people respond to you. In order to be interesting. I think somebody made a point of those.
Yeah. And you know, I like that point, and it reminds me of something that Netta Porter actually used to do. So for those that probably can't be asked to visit all the different departments and start doing research because you don't want to have too many cooks, they would make team members do the entire end-to-end journey and then document the pain points. And then from those pain points, you can then implement, like you said, Mark, things that will be able to delight or, you know, add value or a service to that customer, because you're now going through your website with a fresh pair of eyes, or the journey, should I say. So I think, yeah, definitely it's a good place to start in terms of putting yourself in their shoes.
Absolutely, empathizing with your audience. It doesn't have to be a lot of research either. There's some that sound anecdotal. You don't have to swamp yourself with data to come to that decision. It can surface itself. Just the experiment. You know, you look at KPIs and you measure success. Sometimes just surveying customers, getting some NPS scores, and getting them to go through a user experience is really, really interesting.
Well, I actually have a draft of an article I'm getting ready to publish that talks exactly about that, about the importance of progressive profiling right now, or surveying your customers, under the premise that what we've seen with COVID is that a data-dependent world had no data to predict anything. The data didn't say whether you were staying at home, didn't say whether or not you were staying with an elderly spouse or with somebody that was at risk. It did not predict purchase habits. It didn't predict anything, right? We as marketers walk into everything saying, well, let's look at the data. And we go back year after year after year and say, okay, well, we have a spike in sales today. We're going to have a spike in sales tomorrow. You know, we were left with nothing.
Yeah.
And now one of the alternatives is that we have to ask our consumers to help us out and to give us direction, to fill the gaps in data. Now, we'll get back to that, but right now the importance, Mark, to your point, is we need to start asking the question, because we don't know what the heck is going on with the individual cohorts of our populations.
Yeah, really valid point.
Very, yes.
The other thing I want to bring back to then too is Adiola, part of your question was, let's focus on it being a small team, because I think that's really, really crucial. But I do work with lots of small teams, right? Work with large teams, but also some small teams, which I think is why you sort of brought that question into being. And essentially, if you do what, you know, what you said, to go through, and you'll be identifying then the areas that you can help the most, right? That you can resolve friction and challenges and everything, and pretty much what you were saying too, Mark. Then what happens is that you'll have your biggest wins right there.
Yeah.
Prioritize those, because then what you do is you get that awesome win, right?
Yeah.
And you might have had to bust yourself a little bit, because if you're a small team, it's very hard to be putting together these extra programs to be resolving these challenges, or, you know, particularly if it's with a Lifecycle program, an automated program and everything, and whilst you're currently still trying to do your day-to-day, BAU stuff. So it's really important for you make sure that one is a really good win, because then you can probably get more budget.
Yeah. I have a client right now, big, huge, Mongolian-sized project, probably going to be a year and a half. But we did an evaluation, and I came to the client and I said, listen, you need these 3 things right now. Can't wait. You should have had them 6 years ago, but you don't have them. So we're going to put those in, because you got to have them. Now, these 3, when they go in, will make her look like a freaking rock star inside of her organization. Yeah. And what does that mean? That means that any executive that talks to her and she says, we put in these 3 programs and our donations at our charity have gone up 300%. You think they're not going to fund her for whatever little project she wants?
Yeah.
You know, and it's the same thing in organizations. I don't know an executive out there that wouldn't look at you as the marketer and look at a test result that was provable and repeatable and say, you tried this and you made us more money and you want more money to do more programs like this? Heck yes, let me give you the checkbook.
I guess, Ryan, the difficulty is breaking out of the norm, right? If you've been sending your newsletter, and that takes all of your resources just to send that one message, right? Or 2 messages.
Yeah.
And because you do that, you know you've got roughly, you want to get X amount, thousands of revenue just as a result of those two programs. The difficulty is, and coming back to the point you made earlier, Adiola, is right, you've got to fight against your boss who's basically saying, I want you to do a better job with that and just do that and do that because that's going to bring in this, that's bankable money, right?
Yeah.
And at the time, you're saying, well, we need to do things differently. We need to change. We need to do these automations. That means I need to put more time into that. Do you see what I mean? It's like an investment question. And I guess the challenge for marketers is able to, you've always got to have test and learn in your schedule, always. Otherwise, you're just going to see a progressive line down and just churn. If you don't change and the rest of the world is changing, as things always stand, statistically speaking, you're only going to go one direction, that's down. So you have to evolve. You always got to have test and learn, and you've always got to look at prioritizing based on where you're going to see that, you know, what you're going to see, the low-hanging fruit you need to test that's going to drive a much greater incremental gain. So you have to, you know, testing stuff has to be a net positive. You know what I mean? You've got to provide the business case that if I do this thing, if I get this automation in place, there are things like simple things like welcome programs, right? I've got to spend my time to do a welcome program, or even, you know, cart abandonment. These are almost bog standard, but some of these automations and some of these lifecycle messages have much higher engagement rates, higher double-digit click-through rates, you know, 50% plus open rates, much higher engagement rates than your standard newsletter that you send out every Friday. So I guess the imperative has always got to be there to test and learn, and it's not a static thing. Unfortunately, I think people think because email is so successful that it's easy.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Really hard.
It's like Outlook.
Yeah.
Mark, I will go back and you said one little thing, and I want to pick up on it. So you were talking about the team that's focused with the box saying just get the 2 emails out a week and that's all I want you to focus on. I have over the last 20 years secretly worked with clients, and this would be my advice to that marketer, right? Call your ESP, talk to an executive over there that owns your account, that owns the money that you pay them on a regular basis, and explain to them how can they help you convince your boss to do more.
Yeah.
And I have done those secret projects where we set up at the next QBR, we're going to do it in person. And actually the really smart people are going to come along and give a lecture about how important it is to do X, Y, and Z. And magically it happens. And so I think that in the case where you're looking at a boss or an executive team that just wants you to focus on this, reach out to other people to help you to get them convinced to do it the other way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's the cart before the horse sometimes. I mean, even we, the business, have changed our model where, you know, where we spot the golden opportunities. Well, then look, if you've got no time to do it, we'll do it for you, because the benefit of doing that for our clients is so transformative in the internal outlook on, you know, well, we need to do more testing there. You're proving the use case, but we've got to do more testing, because if this small test led to that big increase, my God, then this needs to be the de rigueur, the norm has to be testing and pushing new things out, not the BAU. So the BAU has to be replaced. You know, it's the only way.
Yeah.
For us, a big KPI is product utilization. You know, we've got great technology, but if it's not used effectively or not used at all, what's the point?
Yeah, it's a waste.
You know, so, you know, it's on all of us, I think, in the marketing industry to make sure we're using the tools effectively at our disposal.
Yeah. And I think this leads quite. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to bring in the point, if that's okay.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Like what I was saying about the continual, you know, optimization and everything, because I think lifecycle marketing campaigns, right, and marketing automation campaigns tend to get overlooked. If we do any testing, it's going to be of our campaigns, our BAU, our, you know, weekly newsletter or whatever the story is. We tend to overlook, and as Mark was saying, these are the programs that you know, high engagement. I've got a client who implemented, we did a whole audit and strategy for them and said, you need to do lifecycle marketing campaigns. They're now delivering 50% of their revenue from just a couple of those ones. I've implemented.
Wow.
It's really, like you said, formative. So you need to be testing so that you are making sure that you're not only just optimizing, but you're also learning. And that, so therefore, when you're doing that, you can be putting in, and when you've got your, your program, right? You go and put in the second stream, you'll have A stream and B stream, and they're running. And then once you actually come to the statistically significant results at the end, you've got your learning, you've got your insight. You can now walk away and use those insights across everything, your BAU campaigns and everything. You then say, okay, great, new hypothesis. We're going to change around, but you've still got the basis of those campaigns in place. You're just changing the wording, the imagery, whatever it is, according to your, according to your hypothesis. So I think that's really, really crucial. And I think marketers need to clue onto that a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely agree. Okay, so we've got a little bit of time. So the next question is, I'm having trouble getting budget for implementing lifecycle programs. What kind of results and ROI should we expect? This is quite broad. Money question, and I thought it was quite relevant because a few of you were talking about money, so it ties in very well. Any thoughts?
What do I don't know. It just depends. I mean, it depends on what the program is. If we're talking about implementation of an abandoned cart, can I mint money now? Is it a next logical product program? I guess here's what I would say. Here's what I would say. Kath and I and everybody on this call, right, have over the years donated their time and effort and money through Only Influencers or Geek Slack or whatever to lift all boats, to help people to be better at email marketing, to achieve things. And we don't do it for fee. We do it because somebody reaches out to LinkedIn and says, hey, can I have 30 minutes? I'd love to get some information. And we do that. I think there's two ways to do it. Number one, reach out to somebody that's a thought leader, that's a leader in this industry, and ask them their opinion with authority, because we're going to see multi-vertical. We're going to see the effect of it. We're not going to stake a claim, and you can't go to your boss and say, I'm going to get 30% conversion on this because of blah, blah, blah. It's all back to everybody's point, which is test and learn. But reach out to somebody in the industry and ask about what happens. And then second, we're 20 years into email marketing. Everything has been written about everything. There is a ton of information. If you think about abandoned cart, Lauren McDonald has written ad nauseum about the product, about that. Kath has written, I've written, we've all written about these programs and what they can see in terms of results. Look at case studies. Do your research. The numbers are out there, but the real number is what you do with it within your own organization based on your own brand equity and your customers and what program you're doing.
Yeah,
I think it's a very it's all set against the expectation, I guess, internally that's set for the email channel and where you are. Everything is always iterative. As a business, you set your global objectives. So it might be, okay, this year we're doing 10% growth. What's the expectation going to be for the email channel relative to what it's done last year? And that's always kind of a standard business planning process. And I think as a marketer, you've got to look at your program. If you've mapped out your customer experience, you know where the gaps are, you know where you could drive more influence overall. The sum total of what your strategy is, if you put these things together, I think you can demonstrate the value of doing more with email. It can be absolutely astronomical. In fact, we start with an engagement with the client. Sometimes we see how much influence does email have right now on e-commerce, your effort entirely, and we can sometimes set benchmarks and to say, look, really, your email channel is driving a lot of traffic, but its conversion should be much higher. Email is always the best converting. We feel that there is bandwidth to expand that by doing more. And we also know that out of, say, 20 or 30 different lifestyle treatments, you're only doing 2. So the opportunity is enormous. And I think sometimes that can be valuable in determining. It's almost like the opportunity there for improvement is vast versus other channels. Otherwise, ROI is very hard to pin down. But I think collectively, if you set out your case, well, we can do these treatments and we think we can improve by 10% engagement. Well, that 10% on the bottom line can be absolutely enormous, because why wouldn't you want to improve your best converting channel?
Yeah.
Email, it doesn't just improve email revenue, it improves the email revenue across all the other channels.
Yeah.
It's a catalyst. So,
Yes.
there's different ways. We're more than happy to help trying to put numbers on that. We often do that. We go through Google Analytics and we look at where we think we can improve conversion rate across email and across the channel as a whole.
Yeah. In fact, our holistic website, our homepage is of a water drop, and that to us is email, because email, it's like that, the ring that the water drop creates in the water, because email affects other channels, because it's so key to the customer journey. So no, that's very cool.
Amazing. Okay, so I think this one is a nice, easy but juicy question. When is the best time to ask for more data during the life cycle?
Oh, blimey.
Mark, you get this one first.
I thought it was nice.
No, that's
as soon as possible. If it's relevant to do so. It kind of bugs me. I've been in this industry. I don't know why everyone is so shy of asking consumers for their data. So long as it's contextually relevant and you're going to use it for a good purpose. There's a utilitarian value, I'll use that word again, in doing so, right? It's going to be valuable because you're going to have a better personalized experience. Otherwise, if you don't have data, you just have a very 2D approach to email. It's very difficult to come up with new ideas and to innovate if you don't know what your customers. As Ryan said earlier, you don't know the context behind why I'm buying something. Your hands are they're just, you know what I mean? They're tied. You can't. But it's the more you can know about it. So we always say, push registration and understand why people are engaging with that brand. Why are they buying, or why are they interested in you? What do they love about you? What do they love about your competitors? Dull forms, you can really gamify it. There's lots of interactive formats for asking for information, and you make it fun, make it part of the experience. Brands have been built on that. Netflix asks for your taste profile as part of the registration process. Your whole relationship with the brand can hinge on the data they supply to you, and that is the experience. We shouldn't shy away. Put a little pref center that's 20 years out of date, that's boring to fill out. Nobody wants to fill that out. But if there is a reason why I should fill it out and I'm enjoying it, I can see the quid pro quo for giving you my data, of course I will.
Yeah. That's quite interesting, because there's myths that hang around or float around in the email marketing world that when you ask for too much early on, it puts people off. But you're right, because I recently signed up to Netflix after, sponging off of someone else's for the last 18 months. I thought, come on, I can afford $5.99. Bought my own. And I had a whale of a time, like filling all my different genres, all the different types of things that I liked. And it was them building a profile on me. So I guess to everyone, what do you feel in terms of the length or the amount of data that's captured at any given moment? Do you think it's a dispelled myth, depending on how it's done?
It's to me, it completely is based on the value exchange. So what are they going to get at the end of it? You were very clear about what you were going to get at the end of it. You're going to get good recommendations of movies to do, and which would be nice after 18 months as well. Or did you have your own profile? You weren't sharing your profile?
A lot of Spanish stuff.
Oh, I see. You were highly motivated, right? So it's kind of like that. It's you can ask for a huge amount of information if you're giving them something. Here's £50. Okay, great. I'm going to give you some information because I want to receive that £50. So, you know, the motivation. But then also what Ryan was saying earlier is that progressive profiling can also be incredibly effective. And that just means, and that works really well in the business sense, but also you can be using it on a B2C one where you literally just get their permission, right? That's it, done and dusted. You've got their permission. But then you also would like to have their birthday, so you can send them a happy birthday, you know, a program or something like that. And you want to sort of get, you know, are you female, are you male, are you, whatever the story is if you're a retailer. And you get a few other little things. As long as you are, again, being clear with how you're going to be using that data and how they're going to be benefiting from it, then they're going to be more likely, oh, you're going to send me a treat. Okay, on my birthday. Cool. Yeah, I'll give you my birthday, you know.
What? Sorry, Kath, sorry.
No, that's fine.
It was the most famous example of progressive profiling, the most effective, which is non-invasive, very subtle, is the Facebook like. I mean, can you think of, like, you're collecting billions of data points in a very non-intrusive manner. And there are ways of doing that on the website, on your website, even if it's just a recognition about advocacy, or if you allow people to say what they like within an email, you're still collecting really valuable data to form a taste profile.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be reams of data, but often, and you know what I mean? It's little small bits here and there, as long as it's contained. And the value exchange.
And the other thing you can be doing, sorry, Ryan, the other thing you can be doing is planting information in the first couple of emails. You literally are planting that information, and then you're saying, if they click on this, and we've got this indication about them, if they click on this, and so on and so on, you're learning more about them because of that, right?
So inception.
Well, I'm a big believer, as I think we all are, in that you know, actions speak louder than words. So you know, that's actually more true than if you were to ask them a survey, because they'll give you mindful results, and mindful answers tend to be, oh, you know, I see myself as being like this, so I'm going to answer this.
Yes, we've done the Myers-Briggs and thought we were one way, and we're really not.
Yeah. See, I have a different perspective. Just a little. Oh, sorry, Kath, were you done?
No. I was saying sorry to you.
There's love here. I have a different perspective because I'm a, you know, crazy American. I will ask occasionally questions. In the example of my article, I would definitely ask questions now. We have the advantage of looking at three pieces, and two of those I think we've discussed, right? Which is ask the question and get the answer, but we have to realize that that is a moment in time answer. It has an expiration date, and it may be flawed because you either get what people want you to think they are or what they are really. We have behavioral data, which is what Kath was talking about, which is the micro elements of behavior on the website. Did they buy something? What did they click on? What did they do? What did they browse? What did, you know, all this kind of stuff. And then you also have purchased, right? Now, you can do that, I think, under GDPR, right? As long as you have permission.
Yep.
But people are scared to ask permission because they may say no. But if you ask permission and give them context, they probably would say yes. But in the US, we don't have to ask. So it's the wild, wild west, and I can buy whatever the hell I want, which is what I want, because that data is, it is solid data that can be verified with different behavioral traits. It can be analyzed. It's a mix of all three, dependent upon what you can do within your geo, but also what your customers expect. But I think what everybody's saying is, if you ask for it, you better use it, and you better respect it.
Yes.
Because if not, then the wrath of the whoever on high will come down and get you.
Or the spam complaint, or you know,
that too.
Because again, there are lots of reports out there, and they say, you know, consumers actually don't mind giving you the details, their data, as long as you use it. Yes. They want to know that is actually, like you were saying, Ryan, is respected. So yeah, so it's really, and they get teased off if you don't. So
Yeah.
And vocal.
yeah. So I think that's it, isn't it? I think we're up time-wise.
Yeah. It's gone really quickly. So it's been an hour already, actually, and it's been great. It's been really, really good. Some interesting insights. I've enjoyed listening to all of you. And my word for the day is utilitarian.
Mine too. I'm going to use that one today.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a good word. But that is all we have time for today. And I do want to thank everyone attending this event live and all those in the future who will be watching it on demand. Thank you for your time. And I really do hope that you found this event to be insightful as well as beneficial. And of course, I also want to thank the amazing CEOs for sharing their experiences and expertise with us. I'm sure you guys are going to update your LinkedIn and put CEO in like block capitals.
I am actually going to write one. I'm going to update my LinkedIn and say, I was on a webinar with her and she's awesome.
And she likes Spanish movies.
I
Yes,
love Spanish
she likes Spanish
movies.
movies.
But as always, please, 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 if you guys that are watching and those on demand, if you can leave us feedback, because it's incredibly useful. We want to know how well we've done, to our own horns, but also where we can improve so that we can keep on bringing all the good stuff to you. So thank you again. And thank you to our panelists for joining today. And I hope you enjoyed the webinar. Bye.